Hey everyone, thanks for joining us on Parent Cafe Live. Today we're going to be talking about positive parenting. And if you want to continue to get notifications for our video uploads, which will be every Friday and during our shelter in place, lockdown, coronavirus state of affairs, we will be uploading more frequently. And we're gonna be showing some things with kids too called our Kid Cafes. So please subscribe below, like and share. And without further ado, let's get into it. So with positive parenting, we want, what's best for our kids, right? So the three goals of parenting is ensuring our child's health and safety, right? We want our children to be prepared to be productive adults and transmitting our cultural values. So making sure that they have our family and cultural values, those social rules, social norms, things like that. We want them to be able to function in society. So those are the three basic things that we want for our kids, and it's our role as the parents to fulfill. Depending how we do that can make some of that easier and some of it harder. So I am by no means an expert or do everything right all the time. I just love the chance to review what I'm doing and reflect on that and try to do it a little differently. And every time I do that, I do see a positive impact in the way my son behaves and acts towards me. So there is a lot of truth behind this stuff. And if I give you examples or anything, you got to take what you can from it and use it what applies to your family. Each kid is so different, and these things look, they have their tweaks in them, and that's okay too. So I don't want to tell you that anything I say is the only way you can do it and be successful. It's just ways to look at what we're doing that maybe isn't working and where we can make some adjustments on that. So when we're doing positive parenting, to ensure we're being successful, we need to respond to our kids. So we need to meet their needs, whatever that looks like. We want to prevent risky behaviors. So sometimes that's educating, that health and safety component, right? Monitoring. So monitoring where they're going, who they're talking to, who they're seeing, what they have access to. So that could be environmental, as they're younger, locking up cabinets, things like that. As they're older, locking up cabinets. Can also be their screen time, what they're viewing, who they're talking to on social media, what kind of apps are they using on their phones, are those healthy things that they're experiencing. Mentoring your child is another one. So supporting and encouraging their desired behavior. So we're coaching them to be those things and be those encouraging, positive actions and positive behaviors, and encouraging, that our choices do matter and that there is consequences to those. And doing that in a safe environment through your parents is where you learn that, instead of out on your own, as a teen, a young adult, and making mistakes you can't take back. So the more we can facilitate that growth and understanding and problem solving skills at a young age, the more likely it is they're going to make healthy decisions. And modeling. So modeling is the biggest thing that I am consistently reflecting on in my life. So I want positive behavior. I don't want whining. I don't want backtalk. I don't want attitude. I don't want yelling. And I have to check myself, because sometimes the language that I'm using isn't helpful. And, in the moment, we all have our moments where it is hard to bounce back from, but we can always recover that. Okay, so the next one is modeling. So when we're modeling for our kids, we're modeling the behaviors we want them to do. So for me, this is something I struggle with, and I don't really realize it until some of the language my son uses at me, I know exactly where it comes from, because it sounds just like me when he's saying it. And it was harmless in the moment, but he's picking up on all those cues, whether it be sarcasm, sometimes he's just curious, sometimes he's just pushing boundaries and being kind of obnoxious and asking me a million questions or wants me to do things. And I come back quippy well, can't you see that I'm doing this? well, then he's using that language with me, which is not very positive for our relationship in general. So that's a big pillar of positive parenting, is having that good bond with your kids and a good relationship. So we are a sarcastic family, but there's an appropriate time and place to use that. And I need to learn how to regulate that a little bit, especially because my child is 4 and I don't want him using that language with other people. Like I can notice and be like, oof, bad on me, Mom, for giving him that. But if he does that to other people, I don't want people to look at my child and think, ugh, that kid, like, watch what comes out of his mouth, right? So that, for me, that's a big fear, and I want him to do well in society and in social settings. So I want to encourage positive talk from him as well. So at home is where we learn how to do that. When we're talking about positive parenting, there's, those are the successful tools that I talked about. Some tips with that and things to remind us all in order to do that is, number 1, misbehaviors is your child's way of communicating an unmet need. So if we can understand that there's something behind the behaviors, we need to figure that out. Is that how we want them to be communicating? Probably not, but we have to help them identify that first. If they can't identify it, they're not going to be able to work on ways to better present those. And using our language and role modeling that is a really good way. There's a lot of like do's and don'ts of how to talk to your kids. So, man, you're really annoying me right now and I need you to be quiet and just go over there. Versus, well, I see that you're really struggling right now and you want my attention, but I need to finish this and then I will come to you, okay? So 2 very different ways to do that. They're still saying the same thing. It's just my frustration and anger isn't coming out so expressively, I guess would be the way to put that. Number 2 is validating your child's effort. So making sure you say, thank you for letting me know that you're struggling. Thank you for ensuring that, Mommy can help meet your needs. I see that you're struggling with this and that's okay. We're going to work on this together. I mean, you're just validating that you're hearing them and reassuring them that you're going to support them in that. Number 3 is give your child the respect that you want them to give you. So I talked about that with like my language and that role modeling. Whenever I hear something out of my son's voice that I know exactly where it came from, being me, it is very disrespectful and it doesn't feel good. And that's a huge gut check for me. And it's simple phrases, but it's how I word them and the tone that comes out, and allowing myself to get that frustrated by a little human that wants nothing more than for my approval and my information and my help. And it's hard. Being a parent's hard. Being a caregiver's hard. I mean, we get tired. We get frustrated. And we're gonna slip. And I just want to try to recognize that as much as I can and adjust that as much as I can. And you can always go back and say, I'm really sorry. When I hear those comments from my son that I know where he got them from, I explain to him that I'm sorry that I talked to him that way and that it's not okay and that we're both going to work on it together to not use language like that. And it's not like all the time or anything, but it's frequent enough to where I've noticed it and it's always me. Because that's, how I deflect when I get really stressed, and it's not positive parenting, right? So I want to encourage the best relationship I can with my son, and communication is a huge part of relationships, so we need to have good, healthy communication. Number 4, never punish your child for their big feelings. This one's hard, especially if their behaviors are coming out kind of violent, but that's how we can rein them in a little bit, by validating and honoring that, and role modeling. So if we're role modeling calm and collected versus yelling and trying to get their attention to get them to snap out of it, they're gonna more self-check and recognize if we are like, when they're looking at us like a mirror, they're seeing like, oh, they're calm. And so whenever we're in a soothing environment, a calming environment, we can start to regulate ourselves a little bit, and that's what they need in order to do that. So we need to help them work through that, and sometimes that's with, you know, words and our validating and understanding that where their behaviors are coming from, and it's coming from an unmet need. And at every age, that's going to look a lot different. So keeping apprised of your ages and stages, so those milestones, where they're at, you know, and as our brain's developing, sometimes, you know, a 13-year-old might regress a little bit into tantrums like you remembered them when they were 4, or just the way they're trying to sort through the world, and a lot of stuff comes out jumbled. So we should have a fully developed brain, and we should be the ones that can help regulate. We should be the ones that can help guide them through and stay calm. It doesn't always happen, but they're looking to us for that guidance. If we can't be that outside perspective, that non-biased, you know, we're not in that emotional wheelhouse of big emotions, then we can't really help our kid navigate that. So we have to step outside of it and try to allow ourselves not to get like emotionally wrapped up and angry, because it's easy to get angry when we're seeing those misbehaviors, you know, and those misbehaviors are really frustrating, and when you're frustrated, you can get angry or snap or whatever, and that's not going to be helpful for them. They're just going to keep escalating, and that goes into the next one. So number 5 is, you know, the worse they feel, the worse they're going to behave. So if they're feeling bad and they're having big emotions that are negative, and then we role model more anger and frustration, it's just going to make their emotional roller coaster happen, you know, faster and harder and bigger emotions, and we're going to see more bad behavior or misbehaviors, behaviors that we don't really want them to have, partially because it's not socially acceptable, partially because some of them are unsafe. And another thing, it's just really disruptive to a healthy lifestyle, right? It's disruptive to a healthy relationship. If you're stressed because your child's misbehaving all the time, it makes life in general hard and difficult around your house. And I mean, looking at ourselves and what are those unmet needs, and those needs might not be something that, you know, it's us per se not providing them. It's just every kid's so different. Some of them have medical needs that we aren't aware of yet, and we need to go get them tested or looked at. Some of it's environments beyond our control in our homes. A lot of us co-parent, a lot of us have foster kids, a lot of us are grandparents raising kids. I mean, there's childcare. I mean, there's a lot of environmental things that we can't control. And number 5 is expressing confidence in their abilities. So whenever we're role modeling and validating and saying, I know you can do this because, you know, you're strong, you're smart, you can do hard things, you know, whatever those behaviors are coming from, and letting them know, like, I'm here to do it with you, is going to help them, you know, build that confidence in themselves. The other part of that is building their abilities, or the confidence in their abilities, is ensuring that they know, you know, what they have overcome in the past, or reminding them of, well, this was hard last time and this is what we did. Or, you know, if my kid gets a lot of like separation anxiety, well, remember what we did last time. Could we try that again? Whether that be like their coping skills, things that they have fun with doing that helps kind of distract and redirect. I mean, it really depends on your kid, on what those abilities are. And that ages and stages thing I was talking about, you know, building confidence in their abilities at a 15-year-old versus a 4-year-old is going to look a lot different. But our kids are looking for our reassurance and that we have their backs, even if they give us attitude, because my 4-year-old can give me just as much attitude as I'm pretty sure a teenager can. He thinks he knows everything right now, and it's my job to stay calm and let him know that. And it's hard to give kids a reality check with, you don't want to burst their bubble when they kind of have odd notions or don't have the same logical thinking path that we do. It's because their brains aren't developed to do so. So we don't want to discourage them, deflate them, disempower them. We want to empower them and, ask them questions to where they can maybe come up with the solution on their own, that they weren't right, but they get empowered by understanding that they're right as they, problem solve and navigate that. So why do you feel that way? Why did you act this way? Why did you make that choice? Do you think that was a good choice? How would you like to change that the next time you're, conflicted with this problem? So giving them that opportunity to have some growth for their choices, their, personal growth, everything like that. So that's what I have today for you guys on positive parenting. Just some tips to help you. I'm hoping you can reflect on that a little bit. I know for me, it's just a good reminder. If you guys have questions, comments, please do that. I will see them below. I look forward to hearing from you guys. And as always, please subscribe, like our video, and watch for our newest uploads. So thanks for joining us. Have a good day.